Good evening, I'm Tips Mahoy and this is ArthIntel Evening Edition. Coming up, Zelensky's top aide named in explosive court audio in Mudra corruption case. Trump says Russia is not going to attack NATO territory. Trump signs order to rename Lake Ontario. That plus a check of the weather across the country. First tonight, the headlines making news around the world. Ukrainian outlet Hromadsk reports that President Zelensky's chief of staff Kyrylo Budanov has been named in court documents tied to a major corruption case against his former deputy, Irina Mudra. According to the report, investigators allege Budanov organized the handling of cash tied to Zelensky associate Timur Mindich, and his voice was allegedly captured on at least one wiretapped conversation. Mudra, who was dismissed and detained, is accused of hiding assets and laundering millions of dollars. Hromadsk's report also links the case to funds allegedly used to post bail for former Minister Herman Halashchenko. Budanov has not denied the allegations outright, telling Hromadsk, "Let the court sort it out," and adding that his name comes up in a lot of places. President Trump says Vladimir Putin is not going to attack NATO territory, pushing back on U.S. media reports that Washington feared a possible Russian move on Europe. The comments came days after CIA Director John Ratcliffe made a rare trip to Moscow, which the Wall Street Journal and CBS News said was meant to dissuade Russia from testing the alliance. Trump downplayed the significance of the talks, saying they were semi-routine and focused on Ukraine. The Kremlin dismissed the attack reports as scare stories, while a senior EU official said European services see no sign of an attack being prepared. Turning now to politics. Your website should make you money, most don't. Toolbox Development builds sites that actually rank on Google and turn visitors into calls. No contracts. Find them at toolboxdevelopment.net. President Trump has signed an executive order renaming Lake Ontario, Lake America, effective immediately for U.S. federal naming purposes. The move comes amid an escalating feud with Canada, after trade talks between the two countries collapsed last week, and tariffs were imposed on tens of billions of dollars in cross-border trade. Trump cannot force Canada to adopt the new name, and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has rejected the change, saying the lake will be called Lake Ontario, then, now, and always. It's a similar move to Trump's renaming of the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America back in January 2025. A federal judge pushed back Thursday on the Kennedy Center's plan to put President Trump's name back on the building's facade by September 8. U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper, who ruled in May that Trump's name was added illegally, asked the administration's lawyer what was magic about that date and whether the move aligned with what Congress intended. The Trump-aligned board has voted to credit Trump on the facade for restoring and renovating the center, with plans to rename the plaza in his honor as well. Administration lawyers separately told the court that without recognizing Trump, the Kennedy Center may struggle to raise renovation funds and could ultimately need to be demolished, a claim Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick downplayed, saying they're not going to happen on Thursday. New details in the August 4th air traffic incident involving President Trump's Marine One at Reagan National Airport. The National Transportation Safety Board says air traffic controllers and the president's helicopter pilots met 1 week before the incident to discuss communication issues. According to the NTSB's preliminary report, they agreed on an alternative method to handle such situations. But that method also failed on the day a commercial jet and Marine One were both allowed to take off at the same time. Officials say the president was never in danger, though the incident raised concerns given last year's deadly mid-air collision near the same airport that killed 67 people. 3 fired journalists from the military newspaper Stars and Stripes are suing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and 2 other Pentagon officials. Publisher Max Lederer, Editor-in-Chief Eric Slavin, and reporter Lara Court say in the lawsuit that the Trump administration is illegally trying to fire them as part of what they call extraordinary censorship efforts against the outlet. The Pentagon cited insubordination in their separation notices, but Slavin and Court say that charge stemmed from interviews they gave CBS News, and the suit ties the firings to the papers reporting on rough conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. CBS News has reached out to the Pentagon for comment. Turning now to finance and the crypto markets. This spot is available. ArthIntel reaches a daily news audience on the Evening Edition and across ArthIntel.com. To advertise with us, visit ArthIntel.com. Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Warsh delivers his closely watched Jackson Hole speech Friday, with rising Treasury yields putting the stakes especially high. RSM chief economist Joseph Brusuelas calls it the most unusual Jackson Hole monetary symposium in recent memory, citing what he describes as unforced errors early in Warsh's tenure. Adding to the pressure, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced last week that the department will at least double its weekly buybacks of previously issued debt, starting September 9th. According to Brusuelas, that Treasury move undermines Warsh's stated intentions, putting the Fed chair, in his words, in between a rock and a hard place. Gap shares jumped 12% in extended trading Thursday after the company named Michael Francis as the new CEO of Old Navy, effective November 2nd. He replaces Heo Barbado, who has led the brand since 2022 and will now become an advisor to the company. Gap CEO Richard Dixon called it a planned and thoughtful transition, saying there's no change in strategy despite Old Navy posting a 4% decline in net sales and comparable sales last quarter, its first negative same-store sales figure since 2023. Incoming CEO Francis said the brand will focus on sharpening its customer focus and building on existing momentum. And now, today's top stories from the world of sports. The SEC is facing its first legal challenge after voting to bar former professional athletes from returning to college sports. A Texas judge has granted temporary restraining orders against the NCAA. The SEC and Commissioner Greg Sankey, sought by a group of former college athletes, including NFL roster players Jordan Hudson, Wesley Bissainthe, and Amory Evans. The SEC's new policy, approved this week by all 16 member schools, with LSU abstaining on penalties, would have suspended head coaches for half a season and imposed fines equal to half a program's operating budget on teams that defy the ban. According to CBS Sports, a similar lawsuit in Louisiana has also been amended to target the SEC and Sankey, while the Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12 have adopted similar penalties but have not yet faced legal challenges. Now, tonight's ArthIntel Quiz. A federal judge had ordered officials to remove Donald Trump's name from the exterior of which Washington, D.C. venue before a Trump-picked board voted to reinstall it anyway. Is it A, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, B, the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, C, the National Building Museum, D, the Warner Theater? The answer is A, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The Kennedy Center's Trump-appointed board defied Judge Christopher Cooper's May order to remove the name. And finally, here's a look at temperatures across the country right now. It's hottest in Phoenix at 110 degrees, while Philadelphia is the coolest spot on the board this evening at 70. That's ArthIntel Evening Edition for now 9 stories, coast to coast. I'm Tips Mahoy for ArthIntel, signal over noise. Enable notifications to stay up to date, like and subscribe, and catch every headline on ArthIntel.com.